So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View, and I want to address the elephant in the room that I'm sure a lot of people have questions about. Why don't I show myself on camera? I'll tell you why. It's not about how I look or anything like that. I'm not ashamed of how I look or anything like that. I'm a hefty guy on the chunky side, but that's not why I don't show myself on camera. I don't show myself on camera because for safety reasons. I have seen so many people online who have become public figures, and I think of myself as a upcoming public figure or a public figure. And I want to ensure my safety physically as much as possible because I don't want to get into a situation where, now, if you're a client of mine and we have to talk, if you request it, I don't mind talking to you on camera, if you're a client of mine. But just to talk to people on YouTube, I don't owe them. And I don't owe anyone anything of that sort. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, but to protect my peace of mind and to protect my sanctity and to protect myself. Now, I have been on camera before. It's just that some of you all may not know it. It may not have been on this platform, but I actually have been on camera before, so I wanted to address that because I know that's the pink elephant in the room. It's not what you think. It is for safety issues because of things I've been through in the past, like in my early 20s. I had a situation in my early 20s where my fellow gay brethren, other gay men, were stalking me. And this was before YouTube. This was like back in the year 2000. This was years before YouTube, right? And they found out where I lived at, and they were stalking me. All because I wasn't attracted to that person. So what they did was they found out where I lived at. They set up another profile. This was back in the day when we did shit on the phone. They set up another phone profile and they pretended to be someone else. This is the level of treachery that people will go to or go through in order to get back at you. And these were gay men that did that to me. And they're lucky because they were lucky. They didn't put their hands on me, but they did try to set me up. But they knew not to get out that car. They knew not to get out that car. So ever since then, I have been very aggressive in protecting myself. And then a few years ago, maybe back in 2016, there was a stalker online harassing me. I will not name her name. It was a female pretending to be a man, but it was a female, and she threatened to castrate me. She said she had saw me. She was a racist white woman, and I don't know if she's still around or not, but she threatened to castrate me. And she lived in North Carolina, I believe, when I found her information. But see, the difference was I was better equipped spiritually, and spirit showed me who this person was. And they led me. See, that's why I tell you all spirituality is real. Spirit is real. My spirit is strong, and my spirit will lead me right to your front door. And that's exactly what ended up happening to her. I found out where this bitch worked at. I found out she had gastric bypass. I found out how old she was. I found out her birth date. I even found out her social security number. Yes, I did. I found out her information, her life story. But I didn't put it all out there. I found out some very damaging things about this person. And she knew I found out about it, and she left me alone. It's the same thing with that Mexican guy that used to harass me many years ago on here. So that is why, but I actually went to his house and put something at his door. He just don't know it. That's why you don't hear him around here no more. You don't mess with no old hoodoo man. And that's what I am. I'm an old hoodoo man. You don't mess with me, bitch. But you know, that is why. To avoid all of that, that is why I don't show myself to the public. It's not out of shame or anything like that. I don't care what people know what I look like per se. I don't care anything about that. But it's a safety issue because I have family, I have friends that I have to protect. If it was just me, it would be different. You know, I am very, very, I trust people, but I don't trust people because I know how people can fuck you up. I know how people can insinuate themselves in your life. That is, and try to harm you. That is why I am very particular about who I deal with. And even the people that I may deal with them with a long handled spoon. And I'm talking about people in my personal life, not people on the internet. This is not just, localized to the internet. This is for anyone. We have a right to our privacy. We have a right to protect ourselves. I have a right to say there are certain things that I don't want to do. And besides, when you listen to people on the radio, you don't see them. But that is why I don't get on camera, because people are crazy. I've never gotten on camera on YouTube. People are crazy and people can still do things to you even if you don't get on camera. I'm aware of that. But it just cuts out a lot of the bullshit. People want to, look around and see if they can figure out where you are so they can come to your home and stalk you and do all these types of things. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I really don't want to have to go to jail for somebody. I really don't want to have to go through all that because if somebody comes to my house, anyone comes to my house trying to harass or harm me, number one, you're not just going to have to deal with me. Number two, I come from a crime family. I don't indulge in it. I don't really fool with my family. But if I call up one of my cousins or my brothers, or my brother, rather, if I call up my brother, and if I call up some of my uncles, who have body counts, countless body counts, and they don't care. They don't care about who you are or what you got to lose or how, depressed you are or how mentally ill you. These people don't care. And if I have to call them up and say, hey, listen, I'm having an issue right now. There are people coming to my house harassing me. They're not going to care what your gender is. They're not going to care what your disability is. The only thing that they're going to ensure is my safety. And I really don't want to have to go through all of that. You know what I mean? Because so it's not just me that you're going to have to deal with. That is what these people don't understand. And not only that, you're going to have to deal with spirit as well. Because most of the time, people who fuck me over, one or two things happen to them, maybe three. They either end up, you know what I'm talking about, can't say it. They end up destitute, or they end up all three. Destitute, broken, and then finally, the final cut. You know what I'm talking about. That usually is the general consensus for people who mess with me. So to avoid all of that as much as possible, I don't get on camera unless I have a client that is paying me to talk to me and I'm advising them and consulting them on something. My consulting business, my spiritual consulting business, yeah, if you're paying me and it's a fair, even exchange, yeah, we can do that if you request it. But most of my clients, they're comfortable talking to me on the phone because most of them don't want to be on camera anyway. I don't have a problem being on camera, but most of them don't want to be on camera anyway. They prefer to talk on the phone. There's only one client that I've had, and she actually wanted to, interact with me and that was fine. I had no issue with that. You know what I'm saying? No issue with that at all. But that is why, because people are crazy. And people will try to figure out where you live at. They will try. I'm watching someone now that is a friend of mine, and I'm watching this person go through the very same thing. Stalking, harassment. I mean, this is what this person is going through is actual serial malevolent stalking and harassment that they've been dealing with for many years of them and their family. And out of privacy, I'm not going to mention the individuals, I'm not going to give too much information out of privacy. But this person has been going through this for many years. It's ongoing, it's nonstop, and I just don't want to be in that position. See, that person is very strong. I'm not that strong in that area because, see, I'll be ready to go to somebody's house. And I'm not going to care who it is. I'm going to be ready to go to somebody's house and knock at their door. And I don't care what the consequences are. See, that's the darker side of me. But then I have to remember I have a mother. I have a mother. I have people that depend on me. I don't have children, but I have people that depend on me. And if something were to happen to me, because I'm really in my family with my mother and my brother, I'm really the nucleus at this point. I'm the nucleus. And if something happens to me, I have to make sure that they are okay. And if something were to happen to me over some dumb shit, you know what I mean? Especially with these low vibrating, miserable, unhappy, uncouth, unfulfilled failure loser bitches and niggas on YouTube. No, I'm not going out like that. I would rather just pick up the phone, call the police, show up at court, and destroy their lives inside out, outside in, like I did that Mexican guy who was harassing me. He never saw that coming. His life hasn't been the same since. You don't fuck with witches, warlocks, and wizards. You don't fuck with us because you may not see the results in your physical realm right away, but eventually it will infiltrate. Especially when you're out here fucking with people and you don't know what type of spirits and demons and legions and entities that they may have backing them up. Why would you mess with first of all, why would you mess with a patron saint of death? Fucking with me is like fucking with death. That's all I'm saying. Fucking with me is like fucking with the death deity. Because I am a patron saint of La Santissima Muerte. And there's another name that deity goes by in all respect that it's hard for people to pronounce, but I know what it is. It's an ancient Aztec deity, and it goes by another name as well. And there are other deities that are connected to that energy, including Isis. But people don't understand all of the connections. Even Oya. So why would you want to fuck with the patron saint of death? Why would you want to do that? Because that is what I would bring into your life if you fuck with me. I will bring death and destruction into your life with no problem and no conscience if you fuck with me. Now, I'm not a bully, but people have always tried to bully me in my life. They've always tried to assert this dominance over me in my life, and that just doesn't work. That's not going to work. And I feel as though that this needs to be said. You don't know who you're playing with. You don't know. And as I said earlier, why would you want to start a war with death? Why would you want to do that? Especially when I'm not bothering you. And nobody's bothering me. Nobody's bothering me. But I'm just saying in general, this is why I really don't like showing too much on YouTube. That's why. Because people don't need to see my background. They don't need to see my surroundings. They don't need to see that unless they're paying me and unless they request it, unless they're paying me. And unless they're really serious about their spiritual journey, not just just a fad or something. Spirituality is not a fad. It is an ongoing journey. It is a lifestyle journey. It is a life-changing journey. It is a forever evolving journey in your life. Spirituality is not a fad. See, a lot of people get into this as a fad. It's not a fad, and it's nothing to play with if you're not serious about your journey. Let me say this as a disclaimer. I am not here to be anybody's father. I am not here to be anybody's crutch. I am not here to be anybody's every 5 minutes you need to talk to me. I'm not that person. Now, if we have a rapport with each other, that's fine. But it's important for me to set up boundaries now. I'm setting up boundaries. I can advise, I can consult, but if you don't do what I advise you to do, we don't really have much else to talk about. Spirituality is not a fad. It's not something that you get into. It's not a costume you put on and take off and put on when you get ready to. That's not how this works. It is an everyday thing. Spirituality is something you do. It's something that you live in. You eat, sleep, breathe, shit, whatever spirituality. And that is what I do because I am the occult view. That is why when I look at things with a bird's eye view. If I see things that make me go, there's something else going on with that story. Just like when I talked about the movie Hellraiser, even though that was a fictitious movie, there are subtexts in that there's subtext in Hellraiser that indicate that Larry, Kirsty's father, might have been sexually abusive towards her. Because our Uncle Frank, we already know he was a pervert. But there was some subtext between Pinhead and Kirsty where he made a subliminal remark. Your daddy is waiting to hold his little girl in his arms again. And the way Kirsty responded to that in her body language. So that's what I'm saying. That is what that's part of spirituality. Being able to see things like that. So spirituality is not a fad. So that is another reason why I am very particular about who I talk to. I don't do, all the love stuff, boyfriend, girlfriend. That's just not my expertise. That's not my expertise. That's other people's expertise, and I stay out of that. What I do is I listen to what a person says. I listen to the vibration in their voice. I don't even have to see them. I don't have to see their picture and, and their eyes and all that. I don't have to see all that. All I have to do is listen to them and pick up on the vibration of what they're saying. Pick up on their emotions. And I can tell right then and there if that's somebody that I want to, do business with or whatever the case may be. But if you're not serious about this journey, then you need to get out of it. Now, this is what I really wanted to talk about. Why do we listen to the people that we listen to? I was listening to Andrew Tate talk once again, and I'm just trying to figure out something. And maybe it's just me. I don't know. But has any average person, I'm talking about an average person, and I'm not going to beat up on Andrew Tate, but has any average person ever benefited, I mean, really benefited from anything he has to offer. And I'm talking about any of these men who claim to be, heterosexual. And that's another thing that I've noticed. I was looking at the analytics of my channel, and I find it interesting. There are more men watching me now than there are women. I find that to be very interesting. Let me tell you something. Go and look at the analytics of your channel and the breakdown of your audience. You go into the YouTube studio to do that. And look at who's watching you. The age bracket, the gender, that really says a lot about your audience and who's watching you. You know what I'm saying? Just do that. There's spirituality in that too. What type of energy is surrounding you? Now, I don't have an issue with, heterosexual men at all. Not at all. I have no issue with heterosexual men watching me, depending on their intentions. You feel what I'm saying? But my question goes back to, has any men actually benefited from people like Andrew Tate, Kevin Samuels? Has any men, average men, not talking about men in, in higher income brackets already. I'm not talking about men who are famous. I'm talking about your average men who work your average job, and I'm talking about black men in particular. Have any of them really benefited from anything that these men have said? And I'm not talking about a false sense of confidence. Has your pockets got fatter? Has any of their formulas made you any more money? Has it made you any money? I'm just asking a question. Because I'm going to tell you something. One thing about Brother Panic that I will give him, he showed me how to make money. He showed me how to make money. And not only that, it worked. No matter how I felt about him on a personal level, some of the things he taught, it did work. His herd pack, that worked. If you weren't stupid enough, if you weren't stupid and didn't understand how it worked, then that's just on you. And I'm not taking up for anybody, but I'm making a point. I'm not a hater. If someone that I don't particularly care for did something for me and it worked, I'm going to give them that credit. And it worked. And it's not that I didn't care for Brother Panic. It's just that we had a disagreement and we just parted ways, and that's fine. I don't care nothing about that. But have these men done anything? Did their formula work for any of these people? No, it did not. I don't believe it did. I see black men on social media all the time quoting Kevin Samuels, quoting Andrew Tate. And these very men, I'm not talking about all black men, by the way. I'm talking about these particular black men, because there are some black men that are about their business, that make that money, and that's doing good. But these particular men, they're broke, they're angry, they're bitter, they're living in the projects, and you can look at them and tell that they don't eat. They look like damn near like a Skeletor. Then they get mad because I can afford to eat and they can't. Or they get mad at black women because black women, you can afford to eat and they can't. And then they want to call you fat. They get mad at you because, these type of men over here, I ain't talking about the black men over here, I'm talking about these men over here. They get mad at you because you can afford to eat and feed your family without governmental assistance and without asking anyone for something. When you are someone who can go through the storm and still survive, that is magic in its purest form. And I have done that. There have been times where I only had a pack of chicken and maybe a box of rice in my cabinet. And that may have had to last me for a week or two. That's magic and hoodoo right there. So it works. It's within us. But these particular men that I'm talking about, and I guess women can fall in this category too, but I mainly see this with men. They're broke. They look like they sit in the house all day and smoke weed, swallow cigarette ashes. And these are not young men. These are men 35 plus living with their mother. Yeah, why? I could not imagine being a grown man in my 40s or even 30s living with my mother or my grandmother. Well, my grandparents are dead. They died years ago. I could not imagine that. I could not imagine that. And I'm not talking about nobody on no YouTube. I'm talking about elsewhere on social media. You see all of these men claiming to be this and claiming to be that. You say you're a king, but where's your kingdom? I'm not calling no nigga no motherfucking king. I'm not calling no nigga no king. Especially if he don't have a kingdom. What the fuck? So my question remains, have any of these techniques worked for these men over here? And the answer is, and I'm going to presume the answer is no. It has not. It has not worked. Because those formulas are not made to work for your average people or your average man. They are made to work for certain men. Kevin Samuels he even used to always say most of his clients were men that had a lot of money. So that is what he worked with. That formula was not made for your average man. Because see, your average man is supposed to be creative. He's supposed to be able to create his own life without depending on another man telling him what to do. And then oftentimes when they do tell you what to do, the formula doesn't work because it's not designed to work for you. The things that Andrew Tate and these men say, it's not designed to work for your average man. What it has done instead, it has done a magical trick, a magician's trick, because these men are magicians. They're magicians, Kevin Samuels, Andrew Tate, and the likes of these types of men. They are magicians. They give you an illusion of what something could be, should be, but it never manifests in your life because you're going by a formula that is not conducive with the formula that is already inside of you. You have to align your formula with you. And sometimes other people's formulas may not work for you. It may not work for you. But you follow them, you continuously follow them, even when you realize you're not getting any money, you're not getting any women. And I don't mean that in no disrespect. And then on top of that, they effeminize you by telling you why they are more alpha than you are. Heterosexual black men, you need to wake up. They are playing you. And they are on a mission to effeminize you. You really thought that they were just here to bash, you thought they were just here to bash women? No, they're here to bash you too. Don't you see it? See, this is what I'm talking about when I say subtext, subliminal. This is what I'm talking about. They're not here to help your average black man or your average man. They talk a good game. And I was getting ready to make a point with the magician thing. It'll come back to me. They talk a good game. They tell you why this and why that and this and that. They tell you all of those things. But if you cannot see anything manifesting in your life, and I'm not saying that some people it don't work for, but with anyone, if you cannot see that manifests in your life what they're saying, then that's not for you. It's not working. And unfortunately, the state of black men, it's not working. See, the whole thing about being a gay person and a straight person, let me just tell you this. I had an epiphany. I was watching a New Edition video that came out I guess it came out in the 80s. It was a song called If It Isn't Love. For those of us who are older like me, you know what I'm talking about. That song, If It Isn't Love. When you really look at the boy groups of that era, the 80s and the 90s, and then you go back and you look at black male singers in the 70s, 60s, or whatever the case may be, there was a total difference in the vibration and in the energy of these men. I can look at New Edition and tell that they were effeminized. No, they made some, I love their music, but they were effeminized in a way. When you go back and look at how they were moving, the dance move, and how they were gyrating their hips. Shit, I'm a gay man and they move better than I do, child, in their hips. How they were moving and, and everything. And when you look at those moves, that is effeminization. But it was right in front of our face at the time, but we were caught up in the good music. They were wearing tights, some of them, tights that you would normally see women wear when they were stretching and doing different types of exercises before ballet. Just go and look at that video and how they move. And I said to myself, this was part of the effort to effeminize heterosexual black men. Now, I know we want to pigeonhole everything and say, oh, no. If you're gay, you're gay. Gay men, we have a little bit more femininity about us. That is the way that it was. But then you had people come along and they wanted to put everybody in the same pigeonhole, in the same hole, or have a myopic concept about everything. No. If you're gay, you're gay. If you're attracted to men, you're attracted to men. That's just the way that it is. But the real issue that people do not pay attention to, and that's not being paid attention to, and it's exacerbated by people like Andrew Tate and Kevin Samuels on a subtext level. Now, maybe he's promoting male masculinity surface level, but you have to go beneath the surface to really see what he's trying to do. Andrew Tate has an agenda too. He has an agenda too. But the real agenda was to effeminize heterosexual black men and to put other men in place over top of you. Like a Kevin Samuels, like these other agents like an Andrew Tate, and even Umar Johnson. Yeah, I said it. And all of these other so-called makeshift ass motherfucking so-called alpha men. You can't be an alpha man if you ain't got an alpha woman standing next to you. If you're heterosexual. You can't be no alpha man if you're not taking care of your responsibilities as a man. You feel what I'm saying? Alpha men don't scam communities out of money. Alpha men don't go around bullying people who are not as aggressive or people who they perceive may be weaker than they are. Alpha men don't do stuff like that. Alpha men don't bully women. That's not what alpha men do. They created a society of effeminized heterosexual black men. This has nothing to do with homosexuality or gay men. This is all about heterosexual men, black men in particular, and how they tried to tear you down. And they used music to do it. Even in the rap industry now, most of those men are effeminized. And then you got Storm Monroe over there saying that he's heterosexual. That's the new heterosexual. It's the new edition effect. The real reason, au contraire, the real reason that Bobby Brown did not, and I like Bobby Brown. I like Bobby Brown. I know him and Whitney Houston went through some things, but Bobby Brown did not get Whitney Houston on drugs. Whitney Houston's brother got her on drugs by his own admission and then trafficked her, allegedly, and did other things to her, allegedly, but I'm not going to go there because I don't want the Houston family trying to sue me, but I'm going to say allegedly. The real reason that Bobby Brown was having issues with New Edition is because Bobby Brown would not go through, or he resisted a lot of the, let's just say, the feminization rituals that they wanted him to go through. Bobby Brown was not in If It Isn't Love. He wasn't in that. There are a lot of songs that Bobby Brown was not a part of. Number one, Bobby Brown is a solo act. He could do his own thing. Bobby Brown he could actually be separate from the group and do his own music. But that is one of the reasons why he had so many issues in New Edition. Read the subtext. Because he is a heterosexual man, and heterosexual men are not supposed to be feminine or effeminized. Gay men, that's something different. And we need to separate the two because that is the problem. Stop talking about, it's not everyone. Gay men, we're over here. We're fine being a little feminine or whatever the case may be, or having some feminine traits. We're fine with that. But heterosexual men should not be subjected to large amounts of effeminization. We're not talking about being balanced with feminine energy. We're not talking about that. We're talking about forced effeminization, which is mind control and spell work. That is what we're talking about. And a lot of these fake so-called masculine gurus, it's the reason they call it a pyramid scheme is because it always takes three: Andrew, Kevin, Umar. That's the pyramid. They're all in, and that's just one pyramid. Then you may have, who else? Shit. I don't know. Tommy Sotomayor, he's off the radar now. So he really doesn't make videos anymore. But they had to get rid of him because his agenda no longer served. Because now they're working on even further effeminizing the heterosexual black men. Have you noticed since the advent of a lot of these so-called life coach gurus about manhood, have you all noticed, have black men noticed who are heterosexual, have you noticed how your lives have gotten progressively worse since these people came on the scenes? Since a lot of you follow these people, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I'm asking you to really examine. Just examine, and I'm not bashing heterosexual black men. I'm just asking a question. Because looking at it this is why I always say, heterosexual men should always have a gay male friend like me. Somebody that's not trying to get in your pants. Somebody that's not trying to, subtextually trying to get with you on a sexual level. See, I don't do things like that. Because number one, I'm not really attracted to heterosexual men. I like bisexual men. You know what I mean? Or whatever you want to call it. I'm not into heterosexual men. Heterosexual men, I'm not compatible with them because they don't like me. And I'm not into people who, I mean, they don't like me sexually. I'm not into people who don't like me sexually. I'm not into people. What I'm saying is, I'm not attracted to someone who's not attracted to me. Let me say it that way. I don't mean that I'm not into people who don't like me sexually. Of course, I can have a friendship with someone who doesn't want me sexually. You need to have, I've always said that heterosexual black men need to, it has to be boundaries though, for me and for you. I have my boundaries and you have yours. I have, quite a few of my friends that are male. Surprisingly, most of them are heterosexual. Surprisingly, but I've always said that heterosexual men, they need a good gay male friend. They need a good gay male friend that can peep, that can just peep, not telling them about no women or nothing like that. That's their own decision unless they ask me. But just to give them a different perspective on things. Because I may see things going on with these hating ass motherfucking niggas that y'all be calling your friends. You know what I'm saying? And I can look and say that motherfucking nigga's hating on you. He don't really like you. He just wants you around so he can suck your motherfucking energy, kill you off, and then become you. But because there is so much animosity and aggressiveness and hatred and dislike for gay black men, and some of it is understandable in some ways sometimes, because sometimes, not me, but sometimes we do too much as gay men, as gay black men. Sometimes we do. We do too much. If a heterosexual man just wants to be a business partner with you, whatever, you can have whatever thoughts. I can have whatever thoughts. I can say, well, that's a fine ass man in my mind. But when you try to manifest those thoughts physically, trying to violate, now my heterosexual friends, I joke with them about certain things all the time. But that's because we have an understanding, but I don't cross any boundaries, nor would I try to. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've had my moments when I was younger, you know what I mean? But as you get older, you get wiser. But has any of their formulas enriched your lives in a way that has been life transforming, where you're making more money, where you're doing good things, where you're able to take care of your family? Because from where I'm sitting, the answer would be no. The answer would be no. I don't see that. I don't see that with your average black man. Don't come to me talking about, well, I listened to one of them and it made me feel good. That's good. But what has it done for you? What has it done for you? I can honestly say that when I came in contact with Brother Panic, that let me come in contact with other people. And then that is when I began to have other opportunities. I made great network connections with people. And I'm not giving him all the praise. Some of it is mine. But that is what I'm giving you an example of what I'm talking about. If a person does not benefit you in that way, if it's not working for you, then why are you following them and listening to them? Because the way that I look at it, Kevin Samuels, Andrew Tate, and a lot of these other motherfuckers, they're all about self. They're about self. And they use the magician's trick to make you think that they're about you. Now, do I think that Andrew Tate should be ostracized? No. Do I think he should be unjustly arrested if he did not commit crimes? Of course not. Absolutely not. No, I do not. I think that's unjust and I think that's disgusting. I'm not for unjust behaviors. But I have questions. Why do we follow these people and why do we listen to them if they're not benefiting our lives in some way? That's like I told you. That's why I really couldn't be mad at Brother Panic, really and truthfully, because I got more from him than probably a lot of people did. And that's because of the spiritual connection he and I had. We also had a spiritual connection because he was a familiar spirit. He reminded me of my uncle. And I think he was my uncle in like the same, not in the same, how can I put it? Different body, similar energies and spirit. You feel what I'm saying? And I can kind of confirm that from the calculations I did on him. So it's not about, liking a person, like I've always said. It's not, this isn't personal against Kevin Samuels or Andrew Tate or anyone. I'm just asking questions. I'm asking questions. Are these men really enriching the lives of men, of black men in particular? Are they really doing that? Because I don't see it. What I see is I see that they're putting you in a permanent, like Joe Clark said from Lean on Me, they're putting you in a permanent underclass, heterosexual black men. They're putting you in a permanent underclass. And if you really notice the black men that follow Andrew Tate, if you really notice, if you really look at his energy, he ain't rocking with black men like that. While supposedly being a mixed biracial man himself. He not rocking with black men like that. But this is what a lot of heterosexual black men follow. And the subtext is to effeminize you. Heterosexual black men. This ain't about gay men. This is about you. So we have to separate the gay from the heterosexual and understand what they're doing to heterosexual black men. And these are the men that you follow. And then on top of that, Kevin Samuels was supposed to be an alpha man. I think Andrew Tate is more alpha than he is. Just my opinion. And I don't give a fuck who gets mad about what I say. You can get mad. I understand. You don't like me talking about certain people, which I don't give a fuck about, but I will and I can. And it's not to be cruel. I don't have anything personal against Kevin Samuels, God rest his soul, or Andrew Tate either. I have nothing personal. But I want heterosexual men to really look at, are these men really enriching your lives with their message? Or have you noticed how your lives have gotten progressively worse? Shit, you go to the grocery store. I was in the grocery store yesterday. A bottle of relish cost damn near $5 fucking. Are you able to afford these things? Has there a formula enriched you enough where you can go into the grocery store? And I'm talking about it as a man, not as a single mother who has to deal with her children by herself. It's understandable when a single mother is struggling because a lot of times they have to deal with that themselves. They're the children. I'm talking about as a man, as a heterosexual black man, how has these so-called men's, how has their message enriched your life? How has it? Maybe it has, and maybe I could be totally wrong. And if I'm totally wrong, I'm totally wrong. I get it. But I hear them talk, but I don't see results. I don't see results. At one time in DC, black men, even as mean and nasty and as homophobic as black men have been, throughout the years here in DC. But at one time in DC, black men owned their own businesses. You could go up and down Georgia Avenue. They would have t-shirt shops. They would have all types of different stores and convenience stores and stuff like that. You don't see that anymore. You don't see that anymore. And we're in the age of Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate, even though that they're dead, and Omar Johnson and others. He's so busy trying to open up a fucking school that hasn't opened yet. But what about the men that need financial, not assistance, but that need financial help in opening up their own businesses so they can support their families, so they can support the children that they have with single mothers that they have abandoned? How come he's not doing anything to help that? And don't tell me that he is, because he's not. How is opening up a school going to help the problems that the black community has right now? And then on top of that, he wants to separate the boys and the girls. But then talks about homosexuality is running rampant in the black community. But you want to start the foundation of this separating boys and girls. He has a nasty attitude, Omar Johnson. He has a nasty disposition. I don't care about how he feels about gay people. That's a given. You know, he's into Pan-Africanism, and I don't care about that. He has a right to reject whatever does not fit in with his Pan-Africanism agenda. I get that. It's not about that. He does not have to like me. He can think I have he can think that I'm mentally ill and that I'm effeminate. He can think all of those things. Those things don't bother me because I know who I am. So I sleep well at night no matter what people think about me. But I'm looking at what is going on. People can say, I'm not a big Tariq Nasheed fan, but at least Tariq Nasheed is doing something to help your average black person. Even if it is on whatever. He's trying to get money in the pockets of black people as a whole. So some of these men can take care of their children and black women won't have to keep suffering as single mothers. No woman wakes up. Well, maybe some, but the majority of women don't want to be single mothers struggling. That is not a plan that they, plan for. It's something that happens because some man lied to them. Men are magicians. I told you that. We can be magicians. We can show you one thing, make you think it's real. We are very good illusionists. We are very good illusionists. And then when you find out the illusion is not real, it's like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God. What was I thinking? There is a lot of shaming of single black mothers in particular, but single mothers in general. There's a lot of shaming of that. And then Omar Johnson made an implication that he would date Sukahana. And we're supposed to be looking up to these types of people, these ratchet ghetto, no consciousness having types of people. I think I would give Andrew Tate a chance over that. I'm just an observer, and I'm just watching. The money that he's taking to open up a school could be used to build a training center for black men and black women. For job training. A shelter for black women who don't have anywhere to go, giving them job training so they can get on their feet and won't have to get on government assistance. But he's worried about talking about some motherfucking Sukahana. He's out here talking about, oh, I'm looking for a woman and I don't have time and you got to put your application in. And this is what black heterosexual men, this is what you follow. And then a lot of heterosexual black men, you can't even afford to live on your own. You have to live with your mother or somebody else. And these men that you look up to and follow, their pockets are getting fatter. And I don't say that to shame you, heterosexual black men. I'm saying that to make you look at these men differently, to make you see what they're really about. And it ain't about the black community. It's not about helping men in general. Because your average man has to get up every day and go to work. These men don't. What job does Omar Johnson have? What job did Kevin Samuels have? What job did Andrew Tate have? All they do is collect money. Speaking at lectures is not what I consider a traditional job, going to work. They don't have to struggle like everyone else. They don't have to maintain certain things like everyone else. How did they get their wealth? How did they get their wealth? By people donating to them? The bottom line is this. Why do people follow a formula that does not work? And their formulas is not working for the black community, is not working for men. If it were working, we would not have white boys going into supermarkets killing innocent people. We would not have white boys going into schools killing innocent children. We wouldn't have black men shooting up subways and getting on subways attacking people if it was working. If it was working, we wouldn't have so many single so-called black mothers that you all like to shame. If it was working, black women wouldn't have to have the whole world on their shoulders. Single mothers have to stay in the house with their children day in and day out, taking care of their children, cooking for them, being a referee, mediate. They have to do a lot of different things. But we're giving all of our praise to these fake gurus online. And yes, I said fake gurus. If it were working, why are so many heterosexual black men broke and struggling? And don't come to me talking about, well, I know somebody at work for 1, 2, 3 people. If I'm going to have a formula, I want the formula to uplift everyone as much as possible. Okay? If I'm eating steak and potatoes and eating good, I want everyone to eat good. That is why they don't put anybody in politics that's going to help everybody. And anybody that does want to help everybody, they end up taking them out like they did JFK. Because they only want to keep people under a magician's trick and an illusion. And that is what all of these people are. They are magicians. They are magicians. And there are even some women thrown up in there that are magicians. That tell black women, oh, you should settle for polygamy. Because you should settle for that. And nothing against people who like that. I'm not attacking polygamy, but what I am attacking is someone telling someone else that they should settle for something that is not aligned with their natural formula. And that may not be aligned with someone else's formula to be involved in polygamy. This is all spell work and curses and mind control. It feels like Jones, what do they call it? Jonestown with Jim Jones all over again. But this time it's voluntary. Nobody is forcing you into the jungle. But it's the same tactics telling you, oh, follow me and I'll set you free. And if you don't follow me, then you will continue to be an average person. But maybe some people have to be average. Because maybe when you're an average person, that is where you find your true spiritual enlightenment. And these men that I have mentioned, I don't see no spiritual enlightenment in none of them. All I see is ego, violence, and hatred. And most of the ego, violence, and hatred that they have is towards your average person. If you are someone who's supposed to be a prince of Pan Africanism, why would you even be entertaining someone like Sukahana? If you are supposed to be about men empowerment, men empowerment, why would you be defending someone in subtext or subliminally like Puff Daddy? Because they all eat at the same table, pimping and pandering to the global community. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Is the formula working for you?